The state will call Brandon Boudreaux.
All right, it's time. This is the star witness, the...
Your Honor, could we have a...
You're going to come up here and be sworn in by the clerk.
Can you please state and spell your first and your last name?
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me do an official introduction. What's going on, everybody? TRAE4JUSTICE back in the building, coming at you guys with the Vallow Daybell trial, the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband that she did with Chad Daybell. So this is Brandon Boudreaux right here, the person who is insane, a member of her own family, which it shouldn't surprise you because Lori has pretty much obliterated 1/4 of her family. And she was working on the extended part, her niece's ex-husband, and come to find out her niece was actually a part of this entire cult, the Doomsday Cult. But so this is him here. We're going to get into that questioning, but if you enjoy the video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm not going to talk for too long, so let's go ahead and get into it.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux. I live here in Arizona.
And if you can pull the mic just a little closer to you and roll in a little closer. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. How old are you, Brandon?
I'm 40 years old.
You said you're currently living in Arizona?
I am, yes.
What do you do for a living?
Currently, I own a solar company.
Okay. I want to talk to you sort of about your marriages. Are you currently married?
I am.
Do you have a prior marriage?
I did, yes.
I want to talk about your prior marriage. When did you get married initially?
I was married initially October 31st, 2008.
And who were you married to?
Melanie Cope at the time, she became Boudreaux.
How long were you and Melanie married?
A little over 10 years.
Did you two have any children?
We have 4.
Do you recall approximately when you began divorce proceedings with Melanie?
It would have been in July of 2019.
And do you recall approximately when your divorce with Melanie was finalized?
It would have been in October of 2019.
So you have to pay really close attention to these dates because everything happened within the 2018-2019 range is when all of the cult stuff came to like a climax point where they were just, everybody was in full action. Chad was working on getting rid of his ex-wife, Lori, her ex-husband, and even her kids. And then it spills over to her trying to get Brandon out of the way. All of this life insurance stuff, it was in full effect around the 2018-2019 range. So as soon as I hear that, I know he was in the crosshairs as well.
Was it before or after October 2nd?
It was the middle of October.
Okay.
So after.
Now, do you have family here in Arizona?
I have a brother who lives in Tucson now, but at the time I did not have any family here in Arizona.
They lived in another state.
Yes.
Did Melanie have family that lived here in Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Did you know someone by the name of Lori Vallow?
I did. That was Melanie's aunt.
And did you spend a lot of time with Melanie's aunt, Lori Vallow?
Yes, we spent a lot of time together.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's directly behind you wearing glasses and a blue top.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It shall.
When you knew or were spending time with Lori Vallow, was she married at that time?
She was.
Who was her husband then?
Charles Vallow.
And how often would you see Lori Vallow and her family?
Pretty often. We would spend holidays together. We often vacationed together, and our children were close, so it wouldn't be unordinary to see each other every week.
Okay. Were you close with Lori Vallow's prior husband, Charles Vallow?
I was, yes.
Did you know other members of Melanie's sort of expanded family?
Yes, I did.
did you know a person by the name of Alex Cox?
Yes, I did.
Who was he in relation to Melanie?
That would be her uncle.
So Lori's brother?
Correct, yes.
And before your divorce from Melanie, did you see Alex Cox often?
Not as often as Lori, but yes, I did see him.
Okay.
Usually at a family get-together.
Did you know anyone by the name of Chad Daybell?
No, I did not.
Did you later become aware that Lori Vallow married a Chad Daybell?
Yes, I did.
Can you try to describe for us the relationship between Melanie, your ex-wife, and her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I would say that she looked at her as maybe more than an aunt, like closer to a mother figure. Her mother passed away when she was younger, and she let her hold a lot of influence in her life.
Okay, so now it's starting to make sense because I was super confused as to why the niece would just jump into the cult activities as well. But okay, so Lori has been like a mother figure to her throughout most of her life. Since she has a lot of Lori's influences, she probably thinks very similarly. Now, by the way, I saw a thumbnail of what looked like some body cam footage of the police interviewing Melanie. I definitely want to check that out. I have so many things on the list to check out.
Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending a lot more time with Lori?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending more time with Lori?
Yes.
There it is.
In 2019, did you start to notice issues with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did.
Without going into what was said, did you ever speak with Charles Vallow about Lori Vallow interfering with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did. On a few occasions.
I want to talk to you about June 25th of 2019. Did that day stick out to you?
Yes, it does.
Why do you remember that date?
On June 25th of 2019, I had a long disagreement with my then wife. My grandfather had passed away suddenly of a heart attack a few days earlier, and she had told me she didn't want to go to his funeral, and that had led to the start of a disagreement that quickly changed and was very different than what I thought was going on.
I'm going to have you put your mic just a little closer to you.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. So you said it started out as a conversation about going to your grandfather's funeral,
Yes,
and then it changed into something different?
it did, yes.
During this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, were you accused or told that you had been involved in doing some things to her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I was, yes. This sticks out because it was so bizarre to me. I was trying to talk to my wife about our relationship, and she was using different language that was confusing. She kept saying that she was going to reveal things about me, and it just didn't make sense. And then she accused me of hacking Lori's computer.
Okay, so yeah, she's exactly like Lori. She is This sounds like something that she would say. I mean, Lori would more so say that, you know, he's possessed and Nephi needs to take place. She's more along those routes, but I don't even understand. I mean, I probably cut it off too soon. What reason would he have to hack Lori's computer? I mean, she's actively trying to sabotage his relationship here, but it doesn't sound like he did anything like that. I don't know.
Which I knew I hadn't done. And I didn't know why it mattered to what we were talking about. So, you know, that something like that sticks with you because it's just doesn't connect.
Do you know how to hack into other people's computers?
I do not.
So you're being accused of hacking into Lori Vallow's computer. Did anything get raised during this conversation regarding your sexuality?
Yeah, it was a very long argument. It started in the afternoon and went past midnight. And as things kept escalating, more different allegations that didn't make any sense kept coming up, and one of those was that God had revealed to her that I was gay, and that one stuck out because Charles had told me that that Lori was trying to convince her of that, which I thought was so bizarre. It just didn't make any sense. I was married and we had 4 kids. So
What am I even here?
Did you ever hear anything about allegations that you were trying to help Charles take Lori Vallow's temple recommend away?
it didn't come up in that specific argument, other than as a side mention of why I might have hacked a computer. But yes, I did hear those allegations.
I want to ask you, are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes, I am.
Were you and Melanie both practicing members?
We were, yes.
Was Lori Vallow and her family practicing members?
As far as I knew, yes.
When we talk about a temple recommend, what is that?
Inside of our faith, we try to set aside the temple to be a place that's sacred. It's a place where you can be closer to God. And because you want it to be a sacred place, we try to live to a higher standard if we're going to go in there. You know, it's the idea of trying to be more like the Savior's example and keeping promises or covenants that you make to him. And so in that process, most of us self-report to a bishop or an ecclesiastical leader and a stake president or a higher ecclesiastical leader, just to verify that you're doing your best to keep those promises. It's kind of a way to help you assess to decide if it's a place that you should go, or am I living in a way that I can go and feel good about, you know, trying to get closer to God in that space, and am I living in a way that sets it aside and makes it somewhere special, somewhere sacred?
So as I'm listening to this description, I don't know how Lori twisted this into like being primarily about her, because I know he mentioned living to a higher standard and that type of deal. Lori took this and 10x'd it, 100x'd it, if anything, because she honestly just straight up believes, from the sounds of it, that she is a god herself. Like, she's deciding who lives, who doesn't, her own kids, her own husband. But now I'm wondering, where is Melanie? Okay, because I have no idea. I have not looked any of that up. One of two things has happened here. Either she went the way of Alex, which is a mysterious sudden death, or her trial has already happened. I'm about to look it up here in a second, but I'm curious now, where is Melanie within all of this?
If someone's temple recommend is removed who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that a really significant thing?
For most of us, we would feel like, personally, I would feel that way. It's something that is sacred to me, and it is important. And so I would not want to lose that. It would be something that would reflect that I'm not doing a very good job of my goal to try to be more like my Savior.
Okay. When you were having this argument, this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, what are you thinking?
You know, it began with just frustration, which when I took a little time and was introverted and thought about it, I realized wasn't fair. If she didn't want to go to a grandfather's funeral, I recognized that me feeling frustrated was something I should deal with myself, but not try to force someone else to do something that they weren't comfortable with. And then it was just really painful, because the rest of it just, there's a lot of frustration that comes from at the end of it, she was asking for a divorce and demanding that we end our marriage. And, you know, I had 4 kids, and this was going to change their entire world. It was going to change everything for my family.
Did you, having spoken with Melanie, feel that Lori Vallow was involved in some of these things that Melanie was telling you that was why your divorce should end?
Can you ask that question one more time?
She definitely was.
As you are listening to the things that Melanie was telling you that evening or afternoon into the evening of June 25th, did you believe that Lori Vallow had been involved in some of these ideas that were being told to you as to why your marriage should end?
Yeah, I mean, how else does her aunt's computer getting hacked even come up without Lori being involved? So I got pretty frustrated at one point, and I think I told her I'm going to take a break, and I texted Lori and Charles and tried to call both of them to discuss it with them because I wanted them to understand the gravity. You know, this is my family. This is my kids. This changes the rest of their lives. You know, it's not just whatever was going on for those two.
So you told us
Jeez.
that you just mentioned that you actually sent a text message or a couple of text messages to Lori Vallow that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can you scoot just a little closer? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why did you text Lori Vallow that night?
Hope that she would have integrity, that she would respond and acknowledge that I didn't hack her computer. I don't know, honestly. Just hope, you know. I was trying to find something to fix the problem.
So you felt strongly enough that Lori Vallow was involved in these ideas that Melanie was putting at you that you actually reached out to her?
Yes.
Knowing Lori, that's just more fuel to enact Nephi. More than likely, she just saw this as more of a declaration of war, the fact that he even reached out to her or something. Who knows how she looked at it? But I want to find out if she responded or not. Let's see.
Your Honor, I've shown the defendant Exhibit 122.
What was that noise? I don't even know. Was that Lori? Somebody was like shivering in the microphone just now.
I want you to look at Exhibit 122. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes,
Oh,
I do.
Boy.
Are those messages that you sent to Lori Vallow on June 25th of 2019?
Yes, they are.
Do those relate to the allegations that were being told to you by Melanie that Lori had provided her?
Yes, they do.
And that was you trying to fix these things that were lies?
Correct.
I'm sorry, really quick. Can somebody tell me what this is right here? I know this is completely unrelated. I think she might have been the one that was making those noises. What is that? Let's keep going.
Allegations that were being told to you by Melanie that Lori had provided her?
Yes, they do.
And that was you trying to fix these things that were lies?
Correct.
State will move to admit Exhibit 122.
Any objection?
No objection.
122 is admitted.
We're gonna see the messages.
Okay. Brandon, just so we understand, when you were shot at on October 2nd of 2019, did you actually provide the police with your cell phone
I did, yes.
so they could download everything?
Yes.
And is this from your cell phone?
Yes.
So we see on June 25th of 2019 at 6:45 p.m., the first message that you sent? And was this phone number, the 808 number, Lori Vallow's phone number?
Correct.
In the message, what did you tell Lori?
I told her that Melanie believed I helped to try to get her temporary recommend taken away, and that we both knew that it wasn't true. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Lori, I sent this to Charles. I'm sending it to you as well. Charles, Melanie believes I helped you to try to get Lori's temple recommend taken away. You and I both know that's not true. She does not believe me. I wanted to send this to both of you. both you and Lori, if either of you care at all for me or my children, you'll come forward and be truthful. I've never done anything to hurt either of you. I can't believe you would lie to her about something like this. I gave you a blessing when you're at your worst in my home. My children will be punished if my wife leaves me or can't believe me when I have done nothing. This is on your heads to make it right.
That is so freaking heartbreaking, dude. He is begging. Imagine Lori Vallow being at the front of this and you're having to beg her to do the right thing. It's not going to happen. He is pleading with them to help his family. From the sounds of, I don't think Lori even responded. Like when you look at the messages, I don't think that her or Charles responded to this.
So your initial thing was about that temple recommend because that was so important, right?
Yes.
But that was just one of the lies that had been told to you by Melanie.
Yes, and at this time I didn't know that she also believed that I was gay. That came after I had sent these texts.
Did you get a response after this first text?
No.
Do we see then a second text at 9:10 p.m., same day, September 25th?
Yes.
What did you say then?
At least have the respect to talk to me to my face, not whispered behind my back. She believes you and you are lying. This is going to affect my children.
Okay. Did she respond to you then?
No.
Of course.
A couple minutes later, did you send Lori another message?
I did.
What did you say then?
I will not stop until the truth is known. It says I didn't dip, but a typo. I didn't do the things you said, and because I know I did not, I will find a way to prove it.
Did Lori ever respond to any of those?
No.
Were you able?
This is that moment again. I have a moment like this in every single trial where like certain details come to light and you fully see how tragic the whole story is. Like it's tragic on so many levels. And Lori just is doing whatever she wants right now. She's in cult wonderland, just doing whatever she pleases.
To convince Melanie that these things that Lori had told her were not true?
No.
Would she listen to you about it?
After that evening, she would never spend time alone with me again. There was always someone else with us everywhere that we ever talked or communicated.
Did you want to get divorced?
No,
Did you agree to a divorce?
I did.
How did you and Melanie decide to go forward with the divorce?
We used a mediator.
How does that work?
You have choices. You can either each get your own lawyer and they can help advocate for you through the process, or you can use a mediator. Those are the two, or you can do it yourselves without lawyers, I guess, as well. And as you go through that divorce process, you really discuss two key concepts: all of the money and the finance side, and then the children when you have children. And so a mediator is helpful in being able to help you understand what the law thinks if you both can't agree on something, and help you go through and think. It's a lot to think about. And, you're very, I was very emotional going through that. And so they're helpful that they can kind of guide you to make sure you're covering all your bases and you're thinking about the future for your kids, thinking about what's fair in the financials, all of those things.
At that time, what were the ages of your kids? I know, I got to go back a few years. So in 2019.
9, Braxton would have been 9. And then I would add a 5-year-old and a, what would Blake be, 2000? A 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Jeez, man.
And you told us that you started to see a mediator sort of in July of 2019?
Yes,
Do you recall if it was the beginning, middle, or end of July?
beginning of July.
So really fairly quickly after you were confronted with these theories of you hacking Lori's computer and trying to take her temple recommend away.
Yeah.
As you went through a mediator, did you agree to have joint custody of your kids?
I did.
Did you and Melanie have a house at the time you were married?
We did, yes. And in the mediation, we agreed to sell it.
Now, prior to the sale of the house, did Melanie move somewhere else to live?
Yeah, we agreed that I would help her find a rental, which we did. And then our house was an expensive house. We were listing it at about $1 million. And so having those young kids inside of it while you're trying to have it show ready all the time was a concern. So we agreed we'd get a rental house where the kids would be able to stay so that they could just be kids and not have to try to live super, super clean. And I would stay in the house and just kind of live in it as a shell house till it sold.
Okay.
They're zooming in on Lori. But really quick, I Googled if Melanie, or just what happened to her in general. Apparently nothing, she didn't get indicted or really anything. So I don't know how involved she is in this entire thing. It sounds as if she wasn't so involved to the point where she maybe was like in the car with Chad and Lori. Maybe it's going to be difficult for them to prove that she was even a part of it. So she hasn't been indicted yet. There's that.
Do you recall approximately when Melanie moved out?
July, around the 14th or so, I think. I'm not 100%. It's been 6
Mid-July?
years. Yeah, mid-July.
So the kids were living with Melanie in the rental house, and you were staying in sort of I'll call it a community property house at this point. Do you recall when your house sold?
In September, I think we got it under contract, and at which point I started looking for a rental house, probably,
For yourself?
yeah, for me to move into so that we could then do our joint 50-50 custody.
Why does this sound so similar? I'm sorry. This sounds exactly like Lori and Charles's story, and it almost ended the same way. It almost had the exact same ending.
Okay.
With our kids.
Did you find a house to rent?
I did.
And was that the 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert?
Yes.
When you were looking for a residence, did you consider at all the location of Melanie's rental house?
Yeah, I tried to, we had agreed we would stay within a couple miles of each other so that it would be convenient for each of us. And I also tried to move close to where I had before I had built the home that we had, I had lived in that same neighborhood. So I tried to move closely to a place my kids would be familiar.
Okay. Did you sign a lease for that 3875 East Phelps Street on September 13th of 2019?
Yes.
What was your plan in terms of when you were going to move into that new house versus staying in the community home?
I was going to stay in the community home until right before we finished everything up. So like the end of September, and then I would move over to the new house.
And when was the community house supposed to close?
October 1st.
Okay. And what was the mediation agreement for that money on October 1st? Who would get what?
It was going to be split between me and Melanie. And it was supposed to all go to one account, and then I would transfer the money over to her.
At some point, did the plan ever change as to when you were going to move into the Phelps house?
Yes. I heard from Melanie that I had an option to get my kids early, which I was getting very limited time with my children. That was hard for me. You know, it's difficult going through transitions like that. So she had offered, she said she was going out of town and that I could have my kids early if I got the house early. And so I was excited, and I quickly changed my plans and made a quick move from the current house into the new house to get it ready, because when you have young kids, you have to kind of prepare. You can't just move them in. Everything needs to be kind of organized.
Okay, so I'm trying to listen for when, like, that sudden shift in the dynamic there, just her allowing him to see the kids early. I wonder if this is around the time where she decided, I'm going to go ahead and plan with Lori to get him assassinated. Like, I wonder if that's what happens and that's the reason why, but I don't know why she would allow him to take the kids. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to put all of these details together and see, like, at what point did certain things happen. Or I could click play and then I would learn. I would just learn it, but okay.
During the mediation, had you and Melanie come up with an agreement as to when each of you would have the children?
Yes.
What was that agreement?
Mondays and Tuesdays would be my days. Wednesdays and Thursdays would be her days. And then we would rotate weekends.
So weekends for you guys was Friday through Sunday?
Correct.
And then how would you hand off the children and what would happen with your youngest?
I worked, so she would watch my youngest even on my days. And then handoffs would happen at school. If they were in school, we would just drop off and the other person would do the pickup. If they weren't in school, then it would be drop off at each other's houses.
Okay. So you said you worked. Did Melanie work?
She did not.
Okay. So Melanie kind of just tells you she's going out of town on the 26th and offers the children to you. Do you recall about when you moved into now this residence on Phelps?
It's been a really long time. Shortly after, I think, that conversation, about a few days prior to when I got the kids. I think it took me a couple days to move in.
So you had the kids on the 26th.
I did, yeah.
How did you told us you had been planning to move in a little bit later. How did you get moved earlier, quicker? Did you have people help you? What'd you do?
My neighbors that lived across the street from me at the house that I was selling noticed that I was moving and offered to help. I just went and got a truck and decided to move. I was excited. I didn't tell anybody even. I just kind of jumped after it, and then one other friend found out, and he brought another friend. So there's 4 people who helped me move, and they were the only people. I mean, I immediately had my kids after. They're the only people who even knew that I had moved. It was a very quick decision.
Now, you told us that part of the agreement would be that you and Melanie would drop off the kids. At any time, did Melanie ask you for the address of your new residence?
Yes, she did.
Did you provide it to her?
Yes, I did.
You think anything of it when she asked you that?
I mean, no, I had said I would give her my address always. We had to drop each other the kids, so she had to know where I lived.
Okay. You told us that you hadn't told anyone else your address?
Yeah, it wasn't like out of secrecy. It just hadn't come up yet because it was so quick.
There it is. Nobody else really knew the address. And then magically, Melanie is asking for the address. Now, I see why he wouldn't think it's weird. I mean, that's the mother of his children. At some point, she may have to bring the kids directly to him. So I see why he wouldn't think it's suspicious. But I'd imagine immediately after that, he probably got shot at right near his home. It probably happened outside the home or something. Dude, this story is insane. This story is absolutely crazy. Like, I never thought when I would start reacting to this trial, it was this many twists and turns and like weird little moments that just line up so perfectly like this.
So, Melanie knew your address,
Yes,
and then you said 2 of your neighbors helped you move,
correct.
so they knew your address. And then you said one of your friends helped you move?
And he brought another friend, so 2 of my friends knew where I lived.
Okay, so 5 people knew your address?
Yes.
Shown Defense Counsel 123, if I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Are those the text message between you and Melanie where she asks you for your new address and you provide it to her?
They are.
And was that on September 17th of 2019?
It is.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 123.
Sorry, I'm going to go back. What was that date again?
And was that on September 17th of 2019?
It is.
September 17th.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 123.
Any objection?
No objection.
123 is admitted.
The state will move to publish.
Go ahead.
October 2nd is when he was shot at.
So again, you told us that you had provided your cell phone to the Gilbert Police Department on October 2nd. Is this from your phone?
Yes.
And so Melanie texted you on September 17th at 10 in the morning. What's your new address?
That's correct.
And a few minutes later, 27 minutes later, you provided her 3875 East Phelps.
Correct.
You told us your parents did not live in Arizona, right?
That's correct.
And at the time, really, you didn't have any family in Arizona.
Yeah.
Did your neighbors that helped you move know Lori Vallow?
No.
Did your neighbors that helped you move know Alex Cox?
No.
How about your friend that helped you move, the two people who helped you move with them? Did they know Lori Vallow?
No.
Did they know Alex Cox?
No.
Did you post your address on any LinkedIn or social media?
No.
So on September 17th and on September 26th, when you got the kids, were the only people that knew your address and knew Lori Vallow and Alex Cox, your then wife, Melanie Boudreaux?
Yes.
It's so similar to Lori because all the evidence points directly at her, and yet she still went through with it. The same exact thing. Did they not watch like true crime content, any documentaries at all whatsoever? Once again, I'm so glad that they are completely oblivious to how any sort of law enforcement investigation can happen. She just straight up asked him for his address, and then whoop-de-doo, a month later, I don't even think it was a month later, about 2 weeks later, somebody tries to kill him. The dumbest group of criminals I've really ever seen. I've never heard of anything like this before.
So on September 26th, you're in your rental house on Phelps Street. You have your children with you. And is this sort of the first time you have been there with your kids?
Yes.
Okay. And this was over a weekend, correct?
Correct.
So you had your kids sort of that weekend of Saturday, the 27th and 28th. And then did you follow your normal schedule now of Monday and Tuesday having the kids?
Yes.
And then was October 2nd sort of Wednesday, October 2nd? And that would be the day you would normally exchange the
Correct.
children?
That was the first day that I would not have my kids.
Okay. And so on October 2nd would be the day that Melanie would now have control of the kids that evening.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about your schedule with your kids the morning of October 2nd.
Here we go.
Can you tell us sort of what your general schedule was? What'd you get up and do with all the kids?
Yeah, it's been a long time. You know, my kids are different now, but back then, I would probably wake up an hour and a half early. Got to wake each kid up individually. Kind of, each of them has different needs. I think Breeze was still in diapers. Blake might have even still been in diapers. So you wake them up, you make sure that you get them cleaned up, changed, you feed them. Got to get 3 of the 4 of them dressed. They don't know how to dress themselves. So you got to give yourself time. So probably an hour and a half making food, getting kids ready, making sure everybody's good to go and prepared so that when you get within a short amount of time of school, you can get the 2 that are in elementary school there on time.
All right, so
Okay, really quick. How disgusting is that? They were going to kill him while the kids were basically like in his care, if you know what I mean. For all they would have known, the kids would have been in the back seat because I think he was in a car when it happened. I don't know if the kids were with him. Dude, this is crazy. They were going to do this to him while the kids were at school, maybe, or possibly in the back seat. And this is what they would have experienced as their time with their dad. Oh my gosh, man. You can't make this stuff up. I see why they have so many like documentaries about this. This story is so freaking crazy.
You said you had two that were in elementary school. Are they in the same school?
Yes.
And so that leaves two other kids.
Yes.
What did you do with the other two kids?
Blake was in like a pre-K preschool that was right by the new rental that we got Melanie, and then I dropped Breeze off at Melanie's. Well, she didn't want me to come to her house, so I would drop her off at the park, and then watch her run to her mom.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when you left the house that morning to start taking the kids to drop them off at their different locations? Let me ask you this. Do you recall approximately when the kids had to be at school?
7. I probably would have left at 7:30. They probably started at 7:50. That's
And were the schools you said close to your Phelps Street?
It was like probably a 5 or 10 minute drive, depending on if there was some traffic or not.
Okay. So who did you handle first? Where did you go first?
I'd always drop the two that were in elementary school first. That was on the way to their mom's house. So we would take those two, drop them at their school, and then I would drive the rest of the way to their mom's house and at the park, and drop at the park right there by her house, and then I would go drop Blake at his school.
Okay. So on the morning of October 2nd, did you follow that same schedule and go to the park to drop off your youngest?
Yes.
And how would Melanie know that you were there?
I would text.
Okay. Did you do that morning?
I did.
And then you said you would kind of just once you knew she was there, let your daughter go to her.
Yeah.
So would you visually see her and then let your youngest go to her?
Of course, yeah.
So she knew that the kid, okay, so this explains, still completely evil though. As soon as he was finished dropping the kids off, she sent a quick text to Lori to let her know, yeah, you can go ahead and do it now. I got the kids. Disgusting.
Show Defense Counsel Exhibit 124. Like that, my paralegal approach with that. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes.
And are they from October 2nd of 2019 around 7:40 in the morning?
Yes.
And do they reflect you letting Melanie know that you were there with your youngest?
Yes.
State will move to admit 124.
Any objection?
No objection.
124 is admitted.
If I may publish. So, do we see here on October 2nd at 7:40 in the morning, you sent a text message to Melanie saying pulling up,
Correct.
and then you received a message for her that she'd be there in a minute?
Yes.
Were you able to hand off your youngest to Melanie?
Yes.
Did you go home after that?
I did not.
Did you tell Melanie where you were going after that?
I did not.
Where did you go?
I went to the gym.
How long, well, let me ask you this. Where was the gym in relation to your Phelps house?
It was a couple minutes away. It was it was midway between her and my Phelps house.
Okay. And how long were you at the gym? About?
Hour and a half.
Okay. Can you tell us what kind of car you were driving back in October of 2019?
It was a black Tesla Model X.
Okay. Two-door or four-door?
4-door. It's
Okay.
like an SUV.
How long had you had that Tesla?
few years. I bought it, I want to say 3 or 4 years earlier.
Okay. So Melanie knew about that car?
Yes,
You had had it when you two were together,
correct.
and you continued to have it as you were going through the divorce proceedings.
Correct.
And you drove that Tesla to that park when you exchanged your youngest.
Yes, I did.
I want to talk a little bit about Tesla vehicles. They're electric, right?
They are, yeah.
They drive a little different than gas cars.
They do, yes.
Can you tell us first about the acceleration?
When you're driving a Tesla, they have when you take your foot off the gas, they built in a system that makes it slow down, so it like brakes for you. So they call it one pedal driving, but so when you push it, it'll accelerate really fast because that's just how electric motors work. The torque's very quick, so you can go much quicker. And it also, when you take your foot off the gas, it'll slow down a lot quicker too if you leave that feature on. So it drives very different than a gas car. You don't use the brakes as much.
Okay. So if you take your foot completely off the acceleration pedal, it almost stops.
Yeah, it can be very abrupt. It can feel
Okay.
like hitting the brakes.
And so had you learned over those years how to kind of slow down by taking your foot slowly off that acceleration pedal?
Yeah, you drive different.
Did your Tesla have any type of technology built in to automatically open a garage door when you're within a certain range of it?
Yeah, it did. It had that exact feature. It was when it got in a certain range, it would just send a garage door signal and open it up.
Had you programmed that feature at the Phelps house?
I did, yes.
If you put your Tesla into park, what would happen?
I used the feature where it would make the driver's side door just open automatically for you, so you didn't even have to reach over and open it.
Would it open all the way?
It would just slowly open. Sometimes it would open all the way. Sometimes it would open like a quarter of the way. There's like a sensor to make sure it doesn't hit stuff.
Dude, I had no idea you could even do stuff like this. You can program a garage to open when you're nearby, how a Tesla, where all this stuff is well beyond my understanding. I had no idea there was even stuff like this, but okay.
Okay. And so that was something you had programmed already, so every time you put your car in park, that would happen for you.
Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the driver's door of your Tesla. In a lot of cars, we see a metal frame that goes around the window. Did your Tesla have that?
No, they make the window seal up into the frame of the car, and so there's no top frame on the door itself, no metal top frame.
Shown Defendant Exhibit 25. I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize what that photo is?
That's a photo of my car.
And does that show the door itself without the glass, but the frame of the door?
Yeah, does a really good job showing that.
State will move to admit Exhibit 25.
Any objection?
No objection.
25 is admitted.
Okay. So is this actually a picture of your vehicle from October 2nd of 2019?
Yes.
And so we can see that there's no sort of metal frame around where the window would be, right?
Correct.
Okay. And is this actually your glass window right here?
Yes, I believe it fell out when I opened the door, or when I put my car in park.
Okay.
So wait, was this after the shooting, or did she just like sabotage the car or something and it just fell out? Okay, let me just pay closer attention to what's going
I
on.
want to talk to you about that morning of October 2nd. You drop off your youngest with Melanie. What did you said you went and dropped off your fourth child at sort of a day pre-K type of course,
Yeah.
and then you went to the gym.
Yes.
After you went to the gym, what did you do?
I drove back from the gym to my house.
Okay. What was your plan that morning?
My plan was to shower and go to work and meet with my business partners, and we had an owners meeting that day.
Okay. Can you tell us what happened when you turned into or onto Phelps Street that
I
morning?
think this is it.
That morning, I made my usual left onto Phelps Street, and there's one house and then my house, and so it's not like you're driving. You're coming through a turn, so you're not moving super fast, and there's not a lot of distance, so I don't really push the gas very hard. But I remember coming around the corner, kind of letting it almost kind of coast as I was waiting for it to catch the signal and send my my garage door up. And while I was doing that, I noticed a Jeep that was parked, and it was really awkward.
Why was it awkward?
Well, it was parked on top of the car that was normally there. So there's usually a van there, and it was just like parked nose to the van. And it was like, the back of it was almost blocking my driveway. It was parked so you just wouldn't think anyone would choose to park like that. So it kind of stood out to you right as you came around that corner. I noticed it had a Texas plate. The other thing that was awkward about it was and no back tire, which Jeeps always have the back tire. That's like their thing.
Yeah, didn't Lori and Charles move from Texas, right? Everything just points directly at them. It's no mistake here. It's literally no mistake at all.
So all of that stood out, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of time when you're coming around a corner like that, but all of that just like, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I remember thinking my neighbor must know somebody from Texas. Because I'm new, I don't know anybody yet. And I was like, and man, they parked awkward. Like that's a really crappy park job.
So that we understand, was the Jeep parked sort of the opposite way of traffic?
Yes,
Okay. And so when you come around the corner, you're seeing the back of the Jeep.
correct.
And you said it was nose to nose with a white vehicle?
I believe it's a van.
And was that a vehicle you had seen in the few days you had lived there?
Yeah, it had been parked there every day so far.
Okay. So you recognize that one. Was there a lot of other vehicles parked on the street?
No,
Just that Jeep right up to that one and on your driveway?
correct.
When you were coming in and sort of slowing down, what do you see happen?
So as I let the car kind of coast in, the back window pops up. I see a muzzle. I hear a bang. And your fight or flight kicks in at that point. So for me, I just immediately thought, and my window shattered. All that happened in like the snap of a finger. And so I just immediately thought someone's shooting at me because I saw a muzzle. So I hit the accelerator and I just went straight. I no longer was planning on turning into my driveway to let the garage door trigger. And
Let me
then
have you pull your mic just a little bit down again.
yeah, I'm sorry. I can lean forward. Could you hear all of that?
So let me go a little bit through it. So you said you saw the
This
rear
is crazy,
window
man.
open.
Yes.
Is that sort of the window that normally the tire would block from opening?
Yes.
Did you see any hands or anything pushing it open?
I can't say I did. The windows were dark, and I remember it lifting, and I remember seeing a muzzle.
Let's talk about the muzzle.
I can already hear when Lori cross-examines him, she's going to say, you said the windows were dark, right? And typically a gun is kind of dark, isn't it? So how do you know for sure that you saw a muzzle? Even though his car literally will show that he was shot at, but that will be like, I can already hear these things, man. I can hear it in my head.
Could you tell, was it a handgun muzzle, a rifle muzzle? What are we talking about?
It looked like a rifle or a long gun. Yes. Also, possibly like there was a silencer on it or a suppressor or something, because I remember the muzzle looked a little bit awkward at the end.
Okay. Have you
Could have been
shotguns
Alex.
before?
Yes.
Wait, I think Alex passed away at this point. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Have you shot rifles before?
Rifles and handguns and shotguns.
Did you grow up sort of shooting, hunting?
Yeah, my family hunts. I'm not a big hunter myself.
But you're familiar then with rifles and shotguns.
Yes.
Had you shot handguns before?
Yes.
So when you saw this, what did you think it was, the muzzle that you saw?
I mean, you had a very short window, but it looked like a rifle to me with maybe a suppressor or something on it.
Okay, so it was able to come out of the window enough that it looked like a rifle to
Yes.
you. You said you heard something. Can you describe that for us?
It's a loud bang. It's gunshot. That's the only thing I can think of.
And you've heard gunshots before.
Lots of gunshots, yeah.
So you hear this and you recognize that as a gunshot.
Yes.
And you said then your window shattered?
Correct.
Did you see a hole through your window?
No, which was confusing. So I was, all this stuff is happening quick. I'm sure I had some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Shock, some form of shock. I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but I remember the first thought I had was I need to call 911. Someone just shot at me. So that, and I remember my phone flying forward and backward because I was driving quickly and accelerating quickly. I remember getting my phone and calling 911 and just, I mean, I remember having a hard time breathing, just feeling overwhelmed that somebody shot at me. And then I think maybe because I was feeling a little guilty or something, I remember thinking like, oh, maybe, there's no bullet in my car. I don't see a bullet hole anywhere. Maybe it wasn't a real gun. Maybe I'm overthinking this, You have a lot of thoughts going through your head.
I mean, even if it's not a real gun, is that a good prank or something? You just pulled up, you don't know who this person is, and a fake gun gets pulled out, and they just shoot at the car. Now I'm wondering, he didn't see damage. Maybe he's gonna say oh, I saw it when I got out the car or something. But.
Did you ever say maybe it was a paint gun?
Yes, I think I did.
Thinking now, have you seen a paint gun before?
Yeah, I've played paintball lots of times.
Does paint come out? And
Not as loud, and it marks stuff everywhere.
would it have left, in your experience, having fired paint guns, does it shoot out paint that you would then see?
Yeah, wherever it hits, it leaves a bunch. That's why it's called paintball.
Did you see any paint on your window?
No.
Were you thinking clearly at that point when you're thinking about that?
I think there's a lot of thoughts that go through your mind. It was a very stressful situation. I've never had someone shoot at me before.
You called 911 and you told us that you drove away from the area, right?
Yeah, I accelerated, went around a corner, and I parked by, there's a pool right there in the community. So I pulled over and parked next to the pool.
I want to show defense counsel two different maps of the area. I can have my paralegal approach with exhibits 1 and 3. Can you look at those two exhibits and tell me if you recognize them as maps of the neighborhood, a closer up, as well as a further away map of your Phelps Street address and the streets around it?
Correct. Yes, they are.
And those are sort of accurate maps of that whole area.
Yeah, I'd say they're accurate.
State would move to admit exhibits 1 and 3.
Any objection?
No objection.
1 and 3 are admitted. After you publish, let's recess.
Yeah, what objections could Lori even have right now? She's literally cooked once again.
With 1. Actually, I think it's this way. When you were driving to your residence, I'll do it this way. We see here 3875 East Phelps Street. Is that your address at that
Yes.
time? And so it was 2 houses in.
Yeah.
When you were arriving back to your residence that morning of October 2nd, can you describe for us how you came in to the neighborhood?
I guess people probably can't see when I point, huh? I would have gone up.
Let me pull out just a little bit.
I would have come around where the map kind of starts there. Yeah, where your pen was. If you go down to that corner, I would have come there off Fairview, come all the way up, gone up that street where your pen was, and gone. And that's the way that I came in,
Okay.
where your pen just traced.
So you went through this intersection and then you turned left here, and that's where you saw, as you turned that corner, that Jeep Wrangler.
Correct.
Did you notice if the Jeep had 2 or 4 doors?
2 doors.
Okay. Did you notice anything about the license plate?
It was a Texas plate.
Were you able to get the license plate number?
I was not.
After the shooting, you told us that you sort of took off, and I'm putting Exhibit 3 up now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we see Phelps Street. Is that the same street we were talking about?
That is
You told us that you accelerated. Was it this direction on Phelps?
correct.
And what did you do when you got to this intersection?
Made a right on Cole, and you can see there's a pool right up there. I parked right there in front of that pool
Okay.
where that little walkway is, right on the.
So
Yeah.
you parked right near the pool here.
Yeah, right where your pen tip was there, kind of by the E.
Were you on the phone with 911 prior to reaching that pool?
Yes, I was on the phone with 911, I think, as I got towards the end of Phelps Street.
Did you see the Jeep as you were there at the pool?
I did, yes.
Oh no.
And where did you see the Jeep go?
It came down Phelps Street, went north on Cole, then it made a right on Waite when it saw me, and then it continued down Waite and made a right down whatever that road is. There's no name on it. And then I lost it at that point. It went down Fairview, and if you go to the bottom of this, it actually exits out onto Pecos Road. So I knew where they had to have gone, because the only way out of that neighborhood is to go down that Fairview Street drive and go around on Francis and then go out onto Pecos. And so that's what I told the police when I told them what happened. I told them that it had exited out onto Pecos.
So basically, the only 2 ways to get out of your neighborhood was either to go up Cole, where they would have had to go past you to get onto Fry, or to go south to Pecos Road
Correct.
through this neighborhood.
Yes.
I thought he was going to say they looped back around and shot at the car again, and that's how he knew for sure, like, oh yeah, this is not a paintball gun. Jeez, man.
We're going to do a meetup.
Members of the jury, we're going to recess. We're going to resume at 1 p.m. Please remember the admonition. Please be in the jury room ready to go at 1 p.m.
All right, I'm going to end this one here. I'm going to get to part 2 right away, because this is the star witness. This is who, like, we have all been waiting for. And I think we're about 4 days into the trial right now, so I am beyond late. But anyway, I'm going to make sure to get part 2 up as soon as possible. And Lori's cross-examination already taking place as well, so I'm going to make sure to get that recorded. Thank you all so much for joining me for another one. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you did something good for somebody today. Hope somebody did something good for you, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.